Hello there, and thank you for tuning into the Designated Pundits. Today, we are previewing the Houston Dynamo as we go through all 30 Major League Soccer teams in our preseason previews. Thank you again for tuning into the Designated Pundits. I'm your host, Bob Ventimiglia, joined today with Dustin Richardson from Bayou City Soccer as we preview Houston Dynamo's 2025 Major League Soccer season. Now, if this is the first time you're tuning in, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You can find us on all audio platforms. Just search for the Designated Pundits, or you can go to our website, thedesignatedpundits.com. Lots of easy-to-use links right at the top there, or youtube.com/@ the Designated Pundits. Season is upon us. We're going to be doing early week recaps and Thursday betting sportsbook picks all throughout the season, 2 shows a week. We hope you are ready to join us there. But first, let me introduce our host, Dustin Richardson. Let us know a little bit about Bayou City Soccer and where we can find you.
Yeah, you can find us BayouCitySoccer.net, Bayou City Soccer at all your social medias. We cover Houston Dynamo, Houston Dash, Dynamo 2, anything really big in Houston. It's a big year for soccer in Houston. We've got She Believes Cup this week. We have the Gold Cup final this summer. We'll be in Houston. World Cup coming up next year in Houston. So a lot of exciting soccer stuff.
Great, and thank you for taking the time out today to join us. We've been going in order of team preparedness. So this is the 28th episode. It's a team that is still very, very much in the works. And, spoiler alert, not a team I know very much about. I think that most Major League Soccer fans know Houston. Most couldn't tell you the record from last season. I was actually a little surprised going over some of the stats. So hope you guys find this informative. We're going to try to break down this enigma of a team right now by recapping the 2024 season. 15, 11, and 10 record, 15 wins, 11 draws, 10 losses. They were 7, 8, and 3, only 3 home losses all season, 8 wins, 3 draws, 7 losses away. That was good enough for 5th in the Western Conference with 48 goals scored and 40 goals allowed, left Houston Dynamo with a +8 goal differential, and they were eliminated by the Seattle Sounders in the first round of the MLS playoffs. 2024, sum it up for us, please.
Yeah, 2024 was coming off 2023, which was the first time they had made the playoffs in quite a while. So 2024, a little bit more expectations, a little bit more, hope for this team. Hector Herrera coming off a big year in 2023 made MLS Best 11. And then he got hurt right at the beginning, or he was hurt in the offseason, and he missed a chunk of the first of the season. Yeah. So it was kind of a disjointed season. You could tell by their home record, they were not very good at home, which is something that has been a trademark for the Dynamo. They've always been a really good home team, especially coming to Houston in the summer. A big advantage for them against most teams when you're playing in 100 degrees and 100% humidity. Sure. They did a lot better on the road. They were a good road team last year, but they just never really put it together. They unfortunately got matched up with Seattle in the first round, lost both games on penalty kicks in that best of 3. Both games when they got red cards. Coco Carrasquilla got a red card in game 1. They lost the penalty shootout. Then Herrera got a red card famously for the spitting at the ref incident at the end of that, or in the middle of that game, which ended his Dynamo career. And then the Dynamo lost again in penalty kicks. So, it stung to go out, without really losing a game. They lost twice in penalty kicks and losing to a team as good as Seattle. Would it be a success? Probably not in the grand scheme of things, but all in all, they're building still, I think.
All right. So, when I look at that, I think one of the things that's really handicapping, and I talked to Jose Tejas to recap Dallas the other week, this Leagues Cup month break, that 5 weeks off is the hottest 5 weeks of the summer. That is if that's just a 2-game advantage, that could be 6 points, on the, I was trying to make sense of why these Dallas teams kind of lost their home field advantage. And that's, to me, kind of a big part of it. I think you had a home game. I'm trying to look here, August 25th, and then not again until September 8th. July 14th to August 25th. That's 6 weeks, no home games.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, it for us, it would be living here. It's kind of sucks, but, and it sucks playing in it, but these guys are used to it. And yeah, you play Charlotte or you play New England or somebody like that. And it's just dripping sweat as soon as you step outside. It's a huge advantage, and yeah, we'll see a lot of this talk over the offseason about shifting the calendar, matching the European calendar, and people saying, "Well,
I hate that idea.
It'll be tough in the northern cities and stuff, but like we want it because we want to still play in the summer here. We don't want the summers off. It takes away.
Although it would help for scheduling these previews if we were doing it in July and August, But yeah. Being a public school teacher, that's really, I'd have all the free time.
There you go. Yep.
But let's talk about some of the goal scorers here. You had Aliou Ibrahim, 6 goals, 4 assists. Latif Blessing, 5 goals and an assist. Ezekiel Ponce with 5 goals. Sebastian Ferreira, 5 goals, 3 assists. Sebastian Kowalczyk, 4 goals and an assist. Amin Bassi, 3 goals and 6. And Coco Kurskia with 3 goals, 5 assists, 8 total goal contributions during the Major League Soccer season. You do not have on this chart a double-digit goal scorer. You do not have any top-end attacking talent. And if we look back at what happened last year, 40 goals conceded is elite. 48 goals scored is, I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, but I would imagine that's bottom 2 in Major League Soccer.
Yeah, it's probably towards the bottom. We've talked to people in this offseason, Aliou gets a lot of stick sometimes from the fan base, but the fact that he was their leading scorer and the fact that he did it with 6 goals is kind of telling. To be fair, Ponce came in the summer transfer window, so 5 goals in half a season. Hopefully is for 2025 we'll get into, but hopefully he's going to now settle in and get a full season and be that double-digit goal scorer. But yeah, it was kind of a goals by committee thing. And you'll notice Hector Herrera not on that list at all after, I think, 17 assists and 6 goals or something he had the year before. So him not contributing to the goal scoring and assists, it definitely brought them down a lot. And they didn't really have a striker until Ponce got there. Ferreira was their designated player who just he had a hat trick in one game. That's a big chunk of his 5 goals right there. He had a hat trick against DC, but he just never really put it together. He got hurt right at the beginning of the season. They tried Gabe Siegel for a little bit, and he wasn't, starting kind of a caliber. So it's rough. It was rough.
It was rough, but we got to turn the page. 2025 is right around the corner. So let's talk about some of the incoming, outgoing players. This was a huge roster rebuild that I maybe hadn't seen coming. I'm trying to point out some guys who left. Sebastian Ferreira, Mackenzie Gaines for the forwards. Whole bunch of midfielders swapping out. Ache, John Gregus, Junior Moreno, Latif Blessing, Coca Kurskia, Jefferson Valverde. That's a big chunk of the midfield. And then with the defense, you do have some turnovers here too. Brad Smith, Tate Schmidt, Kieran Sargent, Mas Sayel. That's the biggest departure of the offseason for me. Goalkeepers, Valdez and Steve Clark, which leaves you with Tarbell and Morier, who are maybe not the elite duo you want back there. Anyone here that you guys are really going to miss? Obviously, Maciel, dominant center back. That, to me, is a huge knock right there.
Yeah, so, starting up front, the Ferreira leaving, they bought him out, I think, finally, is what a lot of Dynamo fans would say. It cleared up his designated player spot, especially with Ponce. Now, they didn't need to, and they play with 1 forward. You don't need 2 designated players at striker. So, Ferreira leaving, while it might seem like a downgrade, is probably good. The midfield, however, Herrera and Carrasquilla were 2 of the better midfielders, along with Artur, who's still here. But that midfield 3 was one of the best in MLS, and now you're losing 2/3 of that. Herrera, who they declined his option, he just wasn't healthy. He just couldn't stay healthy, and they're paying him, $6 million a year or whatever it was, something crazy. They figured it wasn't worth it. And then Carrasquilla has been long rumored to be moving. It seems like every
Yeah.
offseason there was rumors about Kariski going somewhere, and he finally got that move to Pumas. And then, yeah, Mikael, who was arguably their best defender. It's not official yet, but if Tom Bogert says it, it's pretty much official. Um, he looks to be going to Brazil, and that's a huge loss for them, especially late in the offseason, because now they don't really have a lot of time to replace him. It seems like they're going to have to just kind of play it with what they have right now. Hopefully they find, I mean, they're not going to find another left-footed center back from Brazil who's as good as Mikael was, but he's a big loss. And Steve Clark, I think, was surprising to some people. I think I was definitely surprised that they let Clark go. I mean, he's getting up there close to 40 years old, right? I mean, he's probably at the end of his career. I don't think he's re-signed. The last time I looked, he hasn't signed with anyone, so maybe it is the end. But yeah, a lot of out this offseason.
Incoming players, bringing Blake Gillingham, goalkeeper, and Jimmy Moore. How do you pronounce his name?
Maurer.
Something like that.
He's new. I'm still learning it.
It looks like one of those old like hockey names.
Yeah.
You do bring in some defenders. Obafemi Awodesu. He's a center back. Not a lot of experience there. Yeah, Daniel Steres, a lot of experience in that re-signing there. Jack McGlynn was a very interesting one for me. He's coming from, is it Philadelphia?
Philadelphia, yeah.
That is a huge signing. That's a really high work rate player. And with Philadelphia going to a Red Bull system coach with the high press, you'd assume he would have been like the building block of that team. So that's a huge pickup. Junior Urso and Eric Duenas also joining the squad.
Yeah, McGlynn was the big one. They've used the new cash. Basically, you can buy players from other MLS teams thing, the new cash transfer rule, over $2 million on him. He's still 21. He's got national team caps for the U.S., so he's ideally the new Hector Herrera, I think, is what they are envisioning for him. The guy that's just kind of in the midfield doing everything, pulling the strings, setting up chances, scoring on his own. He has a great left foot from set pieces. So he's a 13-year younger version of Herrera, basically, which is huge if you can get that. And
Sure.
he seems to fit the way that the Dynamo are going to play. And I know he's talked about that a lot, that he feels very comfortable in their system. So it's big. Yeah. And Steres, I'll mention too, him re-signing is especially big now that they have a hole at center back. It could be Steres jumping right back into the starting lineup. Steres has played some left back. He's played basically all over for the Dynamo. So bringing him back was huge.
Let's take a look at the depth chart, how things are going to play out. I have a 4-3-3 with an attacking midfielder. We're going to start with the goalkeeper. Tarbell is the projected starter here. I don't think that's a particular position of strength.
It's worrying, I think, especially for Dynamo fans. Steve Clark's big knock, and what ultimately was his final nail, was he wasn't good at penalty kicks, and they lost 2 straight penalty kick shootouts, and Clark didn't stop a single one in the playoff series against Seattle. So it was like, we got to get rid of this guy. But when you look at the metrics, like, Clark is one of the best shot stoppers in MLS, just like from open play. So losing that and going to Tarbell, who's kind of a career backup. I know he started at times, but he's just kind of a guy, right? You're hoping that the solid 4 defenders in front of him can help limit shots, or, more difficult shots to make Tarbell's job easier. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how he holds up for a whole year as a starter.
Up to the center back position, I have Steres and Sviatchenko starting as your 2 best, and Obafemi Awodesu and Ethan Bartlow behind them.
Yeah, Steres or Bartlow probably will start with Mikael gone. Steres probably gets the nod, just being a veteran, and he's kind of been there, done that. Sviatchenko's been fantastic since they brought him in. Obafemi Awodesu, they call him Femi. He's a Dynamo 2 guy from last year. He just got a senior contract, so he's probably not going to play that much. But with only 4 center backs now, he may have to.
Now I'm seeing, this center back situation, not great. But the wings, not great either. Got Franco Escobar and Griffin Dorsey, quality players. And I did not leave anyone off of the depth chart. I don't have any left or right back depth here.
No, they're pretty thin, especially Dorsey's position, because the way they play, Dorsey's almost a winger from right back. He gets forward a lot. And they just don't really have anybody that's similar to the way, like if Dorsey's out, they kind of have to shift the way they play because he's so integral in how they play with their right mid their right back going up, their right midfielder kind of tucking in. Steres can play some left back, and he has when Escobar's been out or injured or suspended. But they don't. Yeah, a fullback. They had Brad Smith, Tate Schmidt, guys like that last year, and they let them all walk. So it's gonna be Escobar and Dorsey, hopefully healthy all year.
So let's move up now and talk a little bit about the midfield. We're going to leave Amin Bassi for last. He's at the number 10. Played really well last season. I think he's the penalty taker on the team, and he contributed pretty well. Let's go to the other midfield positions. I have Jack McGlynn and Artur as my two starters. Let's talk about how these two guys are going to pair up. I assume Jack Glynn is going to be like a box-to-box 8, Artur at the 6.
Yeah, that'll be how it is. He's so solid. He was their team MVP last season. He's just one of those guys that day in and day out, you know what you're going to get from him. He's going to put in a shift kind of guy, to use all the catchphrases there. But McGlynn he's hopefully going to be that box to box, that playmaker / defensive / everywhere guy.
Yeah, and Houston news just broke. We got to talk about this because it is live on the show. Houston is acquiring 2 players, midfielder Nico Ladero, so we're going to throw him right behind Bassi there.
Okay.
And right back, Mikel Holiday from Orlando. So there you go. You got some right back depth. We'll plug Mikel Holiday on both the right back and left back backup spot, and Nico Ladero. I'm not sure if he's an everyday guy anymore, but there was a run where I think he was the most fouled player in the league for like 4 straight seasons.
Yeah, it's interesting. I know that they were in on Ladero last offseason before he went to Orlando when he left Seattle. So this is the first time hearing this. Yeah, that's an interesting move. I think it definitely gives you another attacking guy. They've long been talking about a DP10 this summer because they have a DP spot open. They want a DP. They need goals. Like we said earlier, they only scored, however many it was. They need a big time attacking guy, a Lucho Acosta type guy. They haven't got that yet. So getting Ladero, he's probably not, like you said, an everyday 90 minutes every weekend kind of guy, but having that maybe spark off the bench type player, I like it. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And, that kind of allows Bassi, if he wants to get up a little bit, if you want to run a 2-striker formation for a while, because all these wingers are injured, maybe you go to a little 4-1-2-1-2 action, run a little narrow and see what that brings you. But let's move up to the wingers. I have Anali and Quinones as a projected left starter. Both are injured right now, so we are going to plug in Aliu. On the right side, Sebastian Kowalczyk and Eric Duenas. Let's talk about the depth here.
Yeah, so it's interesting the way they play. Their right wing is basically a center mid because Dorsey gets so high up the field as a wing. They basically tuck their right midfielder in. So Carrasquilla played that position last year. Everyone's like, well, Coco's not a right wing. He was just for a lineup graphic, but he didn't really play right wing. And it's going to be the same, I think, with Kowalczyk and Duenas, whoever gets that role. They're going to kind of tuck inside to allow Dorsey to be that wide option. And then Aliu, he, like we saw, he was the leading scorer last year, but he leaves a lot to be desired, I think, especially in the final third. He's great at stretching the field. He's super fast. He's great on the ball. He stretches the defenses a lot. But I think they're going to want more out of him scoring this year, especially with the question marks we talked about earlier.
All right, and then we move up top, and you have Ezequiel Ponce, a player who I did not really get to learn much about last year. Let's talk about him because he is still new to the squad.
Yeah, he came in the summer, so I think he made his debut during Leagues Cup, and then he finished, the rest of the MLS season. But he's from Argentina, kind of a journeyman. He's bounced around. Um, Thanks, OSG. He bounced around. I think he was last in Greece, AEK Athens, or one of those teams. So he's kind of one of those journeyman South Americans, right? He's still 27, 28. So um, they expect a lot out of him. They paid a club record fee for him. I think it was 8 million or upwards of 8 million, which for the Dynamo is huge. They haven't really spent. We haven't seen them spend money like that in the past. They are now under their new leadership, new ownership. But Ponce, he scored a goal every other game in his short
Yeah,
time in MLS.
8.2 90s. I
Yeah.
like to look at the 90s when I talk about goals. I
Yes.
like that's how many minutes. So 8.2 full game, the minute equivalent of 8.2 90s, 5 goals.
Yeah, and I mean, if you can put that out over a full season, you'll take that, right? And I think that's what Ben Olsen and the coaching staff would say too. It's just a matter of him, doing it again, and especially without Carrasquilla, without Herrera, who wasn't there as much, but was there a lot of the second half of the season when Ponce was there. So yeah, Ponce I think has a lot on his shoulders this season.
Now let's move into some 2025 storylines. These are questions, but they're not really going to be answered today. It's things we're going to keep track of with this team throughout the course of the year. First one is, does Houston have enough to compete in the West? You talked about a record signing, which was 8 million. That's not a whole lot. A lot of teams brought in a lot of talent. There were a lot of moves in the Western Conference, and it seems like Houston may have been a little bit left behind.
Yeah, we were talking about at Bayou City kind of our preseason predictions, and I had them fifth in the West, and that was before Mikael moved. Without Mikael, though, I'm probably pushing them down to 6, 7. He's just a huge loss. And yeah, like you said, there's been so many Western teams that did good. I mean, you look at the two other teams in the state, Austin and Dallas, had big off seasons. Austin broke their transfer record like twice in 2 weeks or something crazy, just bringing in big
Yeah.
names. Dallas bringing in Acosta. So the West, while it was fifth place last year, yeah, they're fifth place again is going to be tough just because there's so many good teams in the West. It seems like it's super competitive. San Jose even is all of a sudden looks pretty decent.
Let me get a pronunciation, Mikael, right? How
Yes,
does the defense operate without Mikael? And that is spelt wrong too.
that's
But
all right.
here's the thing, Ben Olsen, you got Benny Ball. You were defensively sound. Was it because of the players or was it because of the system? We're going to find out real soon, right?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. Like they kind of embody Ben in a way of just the toughness, the way Ben likes to play. And Mikael kind of came out of nowhere. They had Teenage Hadavi, who's now in Cincinnati, but he had gotten injured, and they really didn't have anybody. Mikael was with Dynamo too, and they kind of shoved him into the lineup, and he turned into this MLS best 11 caliber guy last year. So going from him to Steres, or even to Bartlow, is it a big drop off? Probably. But at the same time, like you said, you look at the way their system, the way they play defensively as a whole. Artur seems like a defensive machine every time he's out there. So him kind of playing back, I think they'll still be okay without Mikael. Don't get me wrong, it's a big loss, but having the way they play, having a guy like Stara as a veteran, Bartlow, who's still young and kind of hitting his peak, I think they'll be okay.
All right. So now let's look at some predictions for 2025, because for me, it's gonna be rough out there. You have a lot of competition, and the good thing is you guys were in good form. So it's not like a bottom of the league table has all these moves. I think a lot of the outgoing players were probably good business, as much as it left the team a little barren for some of that elite talent. A guy sitting on the bench isn't gonna, help you out too much. But there's some health issues already, and the season hasn't even started yet, which scares me a little bit. So the first three questions are connected. What is a realistic season outcome? What is the team's best possible outcome? And what do you think is the team's worst possible outcome?
Yeah, realistically, I think they're about where they were last year, fighting around that 4, 5, 6 area in the West, and fighting for home field in the first round of the playoffs. It's a long season in MLS, and it's crazy how many games they play, it seems like now, especially with all the competitions. But I think that's where they want to be, kind of right in that area. Best possible outcome, they're fighting for top three. That's if Ponce becomes a 15, 20 goal scorer. If McGlynn turns into what a lot of people think he can be, he's still super young, and he's got a lot of promise, but putting him into a new team, a new system, new teammates, can he kind of gel and be the guy basically in that midfield? And worst possible outcome, I think, is you're looking at them fighting for a playoff spot, 8, 9, 10-ish. If Ponce isn't scoring, if McGlynn is, just a guy. I don't think he will be, but, if we're talking worst outcome, if McGlynn is just kind of, an average MLS guy and not the $2 million guy that they thought they were getting, then they're probably fighting for a playoff spot. And it's a wide range for this team. I think their ceiling and their floor are very wide. The people want Ladero.
Yeah, I agree there. I just think that there's so many moving parts, and at this thing right now, we already talked about home field advantage changes. We talked about other teams getting so much better, bringing in really, really big name guys. I don't see a whole lot of teams in the West that I would be like, Houston is much better than them.
Yeah,
I don't see that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So I do think that there is a very vast difference on this squad. There is a lot of possible outcomes. The range of possible outcomes is enormous for this squad because without the big names, with just the system, the new coach last year, you guys had what I would consider a successful season. 15 wins, 9 draws, 10 losses. That's great. But I do think that you guys could possibly find yourselves in a little bit of trouble. It only takes a couple of injuries to dismantle this squad. And I think that you guys are already, with what I see there, 2 left wingers, 2 really, really big names that you guys got to have in Quinones and Ali. It's not looking good right now.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do the rest of this transfer window. I think there's still a lot of holes on this team. Maybe not big holes, but like you said, depth. They need fullbacks, both sides. They could use probably another attacking piece of the forward to back up Ponce. So there's a lot of question marks, it feels like, coming into this season.
But we're going to find out real soon what the story is with Houston Dynamo, because play starts a week from yesterday, the 22nd. That'll be this Saturday. We did these previews in order of team completion, and although we still have a few more weeks before these rosters are all finalized, we got to do what we can. We had some good luck with some player acquisition happening right when we were going live. So good luck. Thank you, Dustin, for being here with us today. Let us know one more time where we can find your work.
Yeah, thanks for having us. You can all check us out at BayouCitySoccer.net, all of our Dynamo 2 news, Bayou City Soccer on all your social medias.
And I see a lot of people out there in the comments watching. Make sure you hit that like button. That's going to help boost this towards the top of the algorithm. Maybe a few other people will learn something about the Houston Dynamo, and that's going to help us bring you videos like this each and every week. Dustin, thank you so much for your time and for making an appearance here. And thank you everyone at home for tuning into the Designated Pundits.